There are really 3 elections happening at once in Alberta. One in Edmonton, one in Calgary, and one in the rural areas. Any clear path to victory requires winning swaths of the big cities or cleaning up in rural areas. Here's a look at Alberta's election battlegrounds. Polls at the start of the election showed the United Conservatives with a significant lead throughout the province. So how could each party win? Well, you have 87 seats in Alberta. 20 of those are in Edmonton, 25 are in Calgary. The rest are either small centres, big suburbs, or large rural ridings. When the legislature was dissolved, the NDP had 52 of the 87 ridings. The UCP had 25. The rest were a mix of independents and other parties, and 1 seat was vacant. In order to retain government, the NDP needs to win 44 seats. That means they'd be losing just 8. To win a majority, the UCP would need to add 19 seats. So how could it happen? Well, as it stands, the NDP has every seat in Edmonton and the surrounding suburbs. That adds up to 27 seats. They also hold 14 in Calgary, adding up to 41. The rest come from rural ridings or smaller towns and cities, such as Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, the Banff area, and then big rural ridings, such as Northwest Alberta. The UCP, meanwhile, has 0 seats in the Edmonton area. They have 5 in Calgary, and the rest are in rural areas. So let's run the numbers. In Edmonton, the parties are neck and neck. 44% of people plan to vote for the UCP, and 45% plan to vote for the NDP. The Conservatives say they believe that every Edmonton riding is winnable. The NDP says the same, but they acknowledge they have work to do in some of Edmonton's bedroom communities. In Calgary, though, the margin between the two parties is wider than in Edmonton. 48% say they're planning to vote UCP, 37% of voters say they're planning to vote New Democrat. So it's entirely possible that the UCP will take all 14 NDP seats in Calgary. If they do, and if they hang on to their existing 25 seats in Calgary and rural ridings, that brings them to 39 seats. That means they only need 5 more to be in majority territory. Now, before the election, 6 Calgary seats were held by the Liberals, the Alberta Party, or were independent. If the UCP takes all the seats in Calgary and hangs on to the ridings they have currently, well, they've got their majority, and that's without winning a single seat in Edmonton. That's perhaps their clearest path, maybe their easiest path, to victory. But what complicates it? Well, you have the Freedom Conservatives and Derek Fildebrandt. They're a little more right-wing than the UCP, and they're only running candidates where they think the NDP has no chance of victory. That means they plan to compete directly against the UCP, meaning they could siphon off some votes, maybe some seats. But what about Rachel Notley? What's her path back to the Premier's office? Well, she needs to retain all or most of her seats in Edmonton, plus her seats in Calgary. There are a smattering of seats in smaller centres, 2 in Lethbridge, 1 in Medicine Hat, that the NDP hope they will be competitive in. So adding those up, that equals 44 on the nose, giving them a majority if they lose their rural ridings. And that is possible. The rest of Alberta, outside of Edmonton and Calgary, shows the UCP in a commanding lead. The handful of seats held by the Alberta Party, or the 1 Liberal seat, they could go New Democrat. So Calgary's going to be the key NDP battleground. If the NDP loses a significant proportion of their 14 seats in Calgary, their rural areas, or their Edmonton seats, well, then it's all over for Rachel Notley's party.